Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Agent Capital Deal Dive. I'm your host, John McMonigal. Today, we're diving into a groundbreaking innovation in the tech world, and I'm thrilled to introduce a remarkable visionary in this field. For over a decade, I've had the privilege of knowing Rob Tondreau, the mastermind behind Xmotion. Rob isn't just an entrepreneur. He's a serial innovator with a track record of success, including one business exit and multiple patents under his belt. Rob is renowned for his forward-thinking approach, consistently staying ahead of the curve. Today, he brings us something that's not just innovative, it's revolutionary. We're talking about Xmotion's latest creation. Xmotion isn't just another tech product. It's a paradigm shift, a game changer set to transform how we interact with, from wearables enhancing personal health to autonomous vehicles and drones reshaping transportation and logistics. The applications are boundless. The scalability of Xmotion is as vast as its potential. We're looking at a technology that doesn't just fit into our world, it's going to redefine it. Whether you're an investor, a tech enthusiast, or someone who believes in transformative innovations, Xmotion is an opportunity you won't want to miss. This isn't just progress, it's progress in motion. Xmotion, envisioning a smarter, more connected world. Xmotion, envisioning tomorrow today.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate taking the time. Should I share a screen and kind of step you through the pitch?
That would be ideal.
The deck? Yeah,
Absolutely.
great. Let me share. Okay, let's do this. You see it okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, excellent. All right. Well, it's great to and a privilege to tell you a little bit about Xmotion. It's a real passionate endeavor for me and the guys that I'm doing this with. So you're going to see me get probably very expressive as we go through this because there's some real exciting things. So what we are primarily is we have developed and patented this novel artificial intelligence, bringing motion to life in devices that employ motion sensors. For instance, consumer products like wearables, Apple Watch, Fitbit, Whoop, Oura Ring. I'm wearing the circular ring here. But drones, autonomous vehicles, planes, trains, automobiles, anything that moves has a motion sensor. So our new AI can be used in all of them. And as you see, as I develop through this, we're first going to be focused on wearables, and there's a reason for that. So first, let me take you through our team. This is, to me, it's a dream team. These two individuals I've known for more than 22 years. We have over 65 years in understanding wearables, their architecture, what they're built from, how they work. We understand the sensors, and we understand artificial intelligence and machine learning. Before I tell a little bit more about the team, let me express to you why this is really passionate for us and why we found the problem and we came up with a solution. So back in 2008, I started my first company, which was an engineered manufacturing service. We manufactured sub-assemblies, kits, small products to help SMBs bring manufacturing back locally. We did very well, even though 2008 was a recession year. We did $1 million top line, and we were ready in 2009 to double. And the beginning of 2009, I was attacked by a German Shepherd. I nearly lost my life, lost a lot of blood, tremendous nerve and muscle damage to my right arm. my physical therapist and my doctor said, look, in order to accelerate your recovery, why don't you use these new wearables for your health and fitness? I used a Polar watch and a chest strap. They really helped me accelerate my recovery, not so much for the therapy on the arm, but overall physical activity. That started my intrigue in wearables. And then I went back and tried to find customers that I could actually design and manufacture wearables because I wanted to know them. And we found two companies. We designed the first punch trackers for a company called Hixo, now called Fight Camp, doing very, very well. Those trackers went on the wrist and monitored the speed, the acceleration, the impact, the punch count, and so forth. Then I found another company we did for snowboarding, skiing, and surfing, mostly around GPS tracking. Then in 2014, I had a slap tear in my left shoulder and needed shoulder surgery. And after the surgery, I went to physical therapy. I don't know if any of you have had to go through physical therapy. And you go in, the therapist, they analyze you, and then he gave me some exercises to do at home. And my problem was, why can't wearables understand and measure my motion so I know that I'm doing my measurement at home? So I asked the therapist, he said, nothing on the market. We have some very expensive equipment here, but there's nothing on the market that can measure at home. So I called these two guys, my dear friends, 12 years, I had known them at that time. And I said, Brian, Srini, why can't wearables do this? And they told me what the problem was. And they said, the bad news is it's a significant brand new development. You have to start from scratch. It's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take us 3 or 4 years to get it done. But the good news is we have a concept. It's just sitting on the shelves because we don't have the funds. There started Xmotion LLC, and we got the band together and we started. So the team, I'm a 3-time tech founder. I have 1 exit, 14 patents. I focus on design, manufacturing, supply chain, really understanding the product, how to design it for manufacturability. Brian, our chief operating officer, he's a 2-time tech founder. He's a sensor guru, semiconductors and photonics. He's got 3 patents. Srini, he's really the brains behind our IP. He's a savant, really. 2-time tech founder, over 25 years in deep learning and AI with 3 patents. So really, we are a dream team that's quite capable in developing this technology. What we're eventually going to need is somebody to come in with us to market and really penetrate the OEMs. But we'll get to that. So let's talk about these motion sensors, what they are, and how we start from motion sensing leading to metrics that you get, like, say, in your watch, your Apple Watch, your Fitbit, your Whoop, or whatever. So the sensor, as you can see, is a very tiny chip. And it may be 1 motion, 2 or 3 motion sensors combined together. If they're more than 1, if they're 2 or 3, they're called an IMU, or an inertial measuring unit. The manufacturers of these sensors, then what they do, embed motion algorithms in the chip. They actually have a processor in the chip and these motion algorithms. And then they sell the chip to the device manufacturers, like the watches, the bands, and so forth. Then those manufacturers have a choice. Use the embedded algorithms that came from the sensor chip manufacturers, or develop our own. The big guys, Apple, Meta, Google, Samsung, Sony, Huawei, all these big guys, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars for teams developing to create algorithms for their devices and all the different sensors that are in it. Then the device manufacturer will embed the sensor in their device, and then the data from the motion sensor processed by those algos create the metrics that you see, whether you're measuring sleep or heart rate or some kind of motion. So I didn't know this slide was automated, sorry.
It's AI. No.
It's AI, right. So let's look at the metrics in wearables. So right now, one of the biggest attractions in wearables is health and fitness. I don't know if any of you wear any of these devices, but the ones in green, the heart rate, the variable heart rate, your skin temperature, your oxygen index, those are pretty accurate. And because of those, sleep monitoring is doing very, very well. Those in orange, your step count, your cadence, cycles, your recovery, sleep, as far as when you wake up, when you're fall asleep, what that total count is, and how well you do in your sleep, your calories and your activities, those are all guesstimates. They're about 70% accurate. And then 3D motion is completely unavailable in any of these devices. They only have linear motion, knowing whether you're moving or not moving. And a lot of times, they don't even get that right. The beauty now is if 3D motion was able to be captured in these devices, all of them go green, including 3D motion. That's the beauty and how we can primarily penetrate the wearable market, because they're demanding it now. So what's the problem that they have, and why can't they capture 3D motion real time in these devices? It's because these motion sensors produce so much data. It's like trying to feed a tomahawk steak to an infant. They just choke. They can't digest it. So the existing algorithms that we talked about, either created by the sensor manufacturers or by the big guys, do not have a novel way or a capability of processing the data fully. So you only get a guesstimate. That's why they're only 70% accurate in their motion. So without 3D capture, actionable metrics are limited. So in other words, the devices really don't know exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it. They don't know if you're doing it right or wrong. They just basically know that you're moving or not moving. So what is our IP? What have we patented? And here's the exciting part. So we have created something completely novel. We started with a brand new algorithm. So like the sensor manufacturers and the current device manufacturers, they're just modifying industry standard. We created a brand new algorithm, and with that algorithm, we now have a new unit of measure for motion that includes velocity, acceleration, time, and distance, all in one. And because we can epitomize that motion, we can create like a language model that's used in generative AI today. We call it a motion language model. We call it and we have a trademark called an activity engine. What that now does and gives us capability is using the beauty of AI to rapidly process motion and movement, identifying what it is, and then throwing away all that unwanted steak and just go for the fillet or the better part of it. Just take that portion and then splice that up and able to digest it. Okay? So that's basically the nuance here. We can create a language model out of motion, which no one is able to do yet. So what does this mean for, let's say, a golfer? Hunter, you like golfing, right?
I do.
I saw your bio. So if you were wearing, let's say, an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a Whoop, and you're doing a swing, your device is going to say, well, it looks like you're working out. Can you please go on your device and select what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
But with our technology, in the same device, Apple Watch, Fitbit, Whoop, whatever it is, this particular case, it's automatically going to know, oh, you're golfing. Nice swing. Here are the other metrics. Here are things that you haven't seen before. You might swing time, wrist rotation. There are like 100 different kind of metrics you can have. You can click on it, dig down more. So this is the beauty. This is just an example of golf, but think about it in all forms of activities beyond sports.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I have a Polar watch that I wear when I work out, and a lot of times I'm doing something that isn't, you can't select what exercise you're doing, and so the data you're getting is pretty much useless because it thinks you're walking when you're stand-up paddling or something.
Exactly.
So I'm very familiar with how that would be very useful.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we've accomplished thus far and where we need to go. So as I mentioned back in 2014, when I had that slap tear, we started and they said, hey, it's going to take us 3 or 4 years. We developed the algorithm. 2 proof of concepts were actual wearables. So we actually built wearable devices and tested them. And when we found how accurate we were, we sent our latest proof of concept to the University of Michigan Kinesiology Lab. Very expensive testing, but they had multi-million-dollar equipment and algorithms. They tested it at a greater than 97% accuracy at understanding the movement. This was before artificial intelligence is employed. This means we can quickly identify movement very, very accurately so that we know our IP feeding into the motion language model is accurate. This is the beauty of it. So once we got that, we immediately filed for patents. We're granted a US, UK, and China patent. Then COVID hit. And at that point, we were like a surfer on the greatest shore with the greatest potential waves, greatest surfboard, but we were just waiting for the wave. Wearables were just slow to be adopted. They weren't doing well. But because of COVID, home workouts boomed, wearables boomed, Whoop, I don't know if you know Whoop, just took off like crazy.
Yep.
So as soon as that happened, that opened the door of opportunity for us. We started gathering up and going where I started the funding campaign at the end of the pandemic. I've been working on it now and just started really the formal campaign 3 months ago. So that's where we're today. I've been working on some letter of intents. We have Circular Ring out of Paris, who's very interested in what we're doing. They're competing competition to Aura. I've got Tensor Health, who's doing one for a wrist physical therapy. And I've got 2 sports figures who have expressed interest, one Major League Baseball, the other one in hockey. So what we're going to do with our funding, and by the way, up to this point, I invested $700K of my own funds, and I've had $45K of friends and family that have invested to help us through that development. But the funding that I'm looking for now is going to get us to train the model. So think of us very similar to OpenAI back in 2015 when they went to Elon Musk and Microsoft and said, we've got an idea. We think it can do this, but we need millions of dollars to train. Well, our model is much, much smaller and we could do it much, much faster. You'll see how much I'm looking for. But that's exactly where we're at. The thing is, we know AI, pattern recognition, and the process works. Once the motion language model is complete, then we penetrate with the OEM partnerships and then develop the APIs. Now, the market, typically when you see a market, you see it in dollars. But because we are focusing on devices that are employing sensor units, we only focused on IMU sensors. So There's 2.5 billion is the TAM.
Mhm.
1.5 billion across all of the wearables, but 600 million are consumer wearables. So that's our obtainable market is 600 million units per year is what consumer wearables are.
Mhm.
So here's our who are competitors. Well, it turns out that, as I mentioned earlier, there isn't anyone who is specifically developing algorithms to sell to device manufacturers to capture motion. As I mentioned, it's created by the sensor manufacturers and by the device manufacturers. So it's not a direct, but it's an indirect competition. They, in essence, become our customers. So on the left, you see all the device manufacturers for the IMUs and some of the consumer wearables. All of them will want to obtain our algorithm. But here's how we're going to penetrate the market. So those sensor manufacturers, we're going to give them the AI for free. They're going to load it onto their devices because they don't actually use the AI. It's the device manufacturers. That way, the sensors, when it gets to the device manufacturers, all they have to do is activate it. It's already there. The device manufacturers will be licensed the motion language model on each device. And we're targeting $299 per device. When it gets to larger devices like automobiles, then there'll be a token tiered application, just like other GPTs are charging now based on tokens. But for wearables, just a one-time device fee. Then the Motion GPT is going to be licensed to API or app developers. So app developers are going to create all these apps to load on your devices that are going to be capturing 3D motion for so many different applications. Then those will be the monthly subscriptions that will come from the consumer through the app developer. So you can see this is quite scalable and huge market. So a go-to-market strategy is first train by February. I'm hoping to get funding by early January. We'll be head right into training the motion language model, then testing. Then we'll have our first sensor chip partnerships where we'll be giving the AIs to them so that they can test it out in their chips. And then in 6 months, in mid-24, we'll have our first OEM licenses, and then our first app licenses within 9 months into the third quarter of 24. So remember the $600 million target, so 600 million unit target, this is our projected model, where in 2027, we have only penetrated 15 million of those 600 million wearables and only 343,000 apps at that time, bringing us to $117 million revenue with a 101 million EBITDA. So if you go by the traditional 10x rev top line revenue, we could be a unicorn just on wearables alone. And you can see it's a gradual growth, but it's a reasonable penetration into the market. So beyond the consumer wearables, once we get in there, then there are 1 billion units for mobile devices, robotics, 500 million, sports, not only the athletes, but all of the equipment the athletes are using on the field and off the field, autonomous vehicles and drones. So the market is significantly huge. So what am I seeking? $2 million total for us to get through that go-to-market strategy that I had mentioned to you. But in this particular deck, I had split it into two to minimize the risk to the investor. The first tranche of $800K would be to develop the motion language model, test it, and then prove its viability. We've got extremely high confidence. We've already pre-tested it, as mentioned, at the University of Michigan. So very, very high confidence. Once that's done, then the second tranche of 1.2 million would come in. We'd finish off the API development, work on the sales and marketing, and the foundation of the company. So this will give an additional 12 months to the original 8+ months, or almost 24 months of runway with 2 million in revenue. So that's the plan. That's the pitch. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to present it. I'm sure you get tons of questions.
Thank you so much for that. And it's very impressive what you guys have got to this point. Can you talk a little bit about the patent that you referred to in the beginning and what that covers in the marketplace?
Absolutely. So these are all the components of the patent. The patent claims in all 3 countries, and one's a region, are essentially the same. It's very broad and very complete. So it is a software patent, and it includes each of these components. So it mentions the algorithm. It mentions that it is relative to artificial intelligence with this Udian. The Udian is specifically mentioned in the patent, and it's it is the only patent that we have found to date that uses artificial intelligence on data coming from motion sensors.
Okay.
So these components is exactly what's embedded in the claims of the patent: this activity engine, the Udian, and the algorithm.
Okay, understood. So essentially, you go to Whoop, and if Whoop became a customer, it would your tech would be a add-on to their next generation Whoop strap and improve the accuracy of the Whoop bracelet. Is that how that would work with them, or any of those other components?
Exactly, with a minor modification. Whoop is already ready. It doesn't have to be their next generation. They're already using a 6 degrees of freedom 2-sensor chip. So they can, instead of waiting, they can just, with a firmware upgrade, and they're ready to go.
So they can just remotely update their software.
Existing tech. They purchased a company called Punch. No, I can't remember. They recently, and their current product revisions all now have those IMUs already built in.
Okay, so it can be.
You've asked an excellent question. The IMUs that are needed for this are already in the market. It's already off the shelf. Nothing new there.
So they don't have to sell a new product.
Many of them don't. However, things like the Aura and circular rings, they only have accelerometers.
Okay.
That's all they have. They will need to upgrade. The chip size is the same.
Yeah.
So it's really the same, just a minor increase in price for them, but the return is just huge.
And so on that $2 charge, if Whoop became a client, they would pay you $2 for every device in existence today.
$2 for every device that they activated in.
Yes. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, and we're assuming that they'll just pass it on to the consumer.
Yeah.
In whatever they're buying.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. On the device side, that's correct. And if the device manufacturer has their own apps, that means their apps are already licensed with the API. They're using it. But if there are apps on the App Store that get downloaded to the device and added, now you're on the monthly subscription for the API.
Okay. And then, okay, yeah, understood. And on the other side, when you were talking about giving away the algorithm or the AI to the chip manufacturers, is that so that you can build your model, your AI model, and collect data from them, or is it just to get it into the marketplace? What's this?
Yeah, no, I won't collect any data until it's actually in some device. So
Yeah.
those sensor manufacturers have no control over it.
Okay.
So I'm giving it to them because
Mhm.
I'm piggybacking on them so I can walk in the door to Whoop, Apple, Meta, Sony, all of the
Understood.
manufacturers. That way, when they buy those chips, it's automatically there.
You've already got the customer.
All
Got
they
it.
have to do is activate it.
Understood. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for helping
Sure.
me see that more clearly. And then, what is the time? So your time frame to revenue is the 9-month target that you had in those projections. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll start. We'll start some
Yeah.
small revenue in 2024.
Okay.
Well,
Very
I do expect 2 or 3 licenses, and those licenses, each one, they'll buy licenses in bulk. They won't do one at a time. We'll agree to some license contract where it's 50,000, 100,000, 150, whatever. But all of those manufacturers have, they're not just going to do a couple hundred. They're going to be doing tens or,
Yeah.
up to a 50,000.
Okay. What else did I have here? So, and what's the offer for the 2 million for the investor?
Well,
Oh, so you've got the one. So it's 2 different. The first tranche is a different valuation.
yeah, I had it. I had right because look, you're getting in early. We're pre-product, so I'm basically throwing a dart and saying, look, okay, we're going to do a $6 million cap on this 800K. If you come in now, I have to have a higher valuation. Otherwise, I'm giving more away from my company. So basically, what I'm looking for and what I discussed with John is, look, the better thing for us is to understand if you're a visionary, the investor is a visionary, understands it, the risk, there's always risk. We all know that, but the risk is relatively lower. Come in with $2 million, give me a higher valuation, and I'm willing to give away 20% of my company. So
Okay.
2 million at 20%, you can back figure that it's somewhere between 12 and 14 million dollar valuation.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Great questions, Hunter. Thank you. Ken, do you have any questions for Rob?
I just wanted to be clear on something. So the data that you're collecting, that data you're going to hold on to, and that's going to be valuable, correct? That's what I wanted to also understand. That seems like that's really valuable.
Ken, you hit it on the nose. That's even more because as everybody is realizing, LLMs on their own, the model itself is what is of great value. So that's exactly right. That's a whole nother revenue stream that I haven't even touched or talked about, because we will be creating these models so that they can be used in so many different applications. And because our Udian is unique, everybody's going to want to have this model. That's what the value is. So as it becomes larger and larger and grows beyond the wearables into bigger devices like autonomous vehicles, any kind of those models are going to be worth huge amounts of money. And of course, there's going to be institutions and scientific venues that are going to want that data and extrapolate from that data as well. So absolutely.
Insurance companies for actuaries. I mean, there's applications in the military. I mean, it's really kind of a scary situation how valuable that can be. That's really
absolutely
what's so cool. So this 3D system is mainly a software based. I mean, is the patent on something also that's a physical product, the chip itself, or is all a software algorithm? I just want to
all it is software, no hardware. No hardware. It doesn't depend on hardware. The hardware can get better and better and better, and it doesn't matter.
And so you need 800,000 to start, then another 1.2 in the second tranche. But how does somebody really get in if they wanted to put more into this, if they had the vision and believed? Are you willing to renegotiate your ownership structure for the money they're putting forth?
I'm always negotiable and open. It's all about the valuation. I'm willing to give X amount away of my company at this point, 20%. I know there's going to be another round after this. So anybody that's coming in is certainly, I'm willing to give discounts to come into the next round and go with it. The real thing that I really would want to make sure is I'm just not looking for money. Money is definitely a driver, but I'm looking for resources for our mutual success, because this is going to grow fast and we need to penetrate so many. I mean, getting into sports, getting into the big deals and the big companies is not going to be an easy task. It's all about networking. And quite frankly, with this IP, if you have a visionary that can see this in 3 or 4 years, some of the big guys are going to want to acquire this right away. I don't think they're going to want to have us sit out there and to continue to develop it, because whoever owns this IP is going to have the monopoly on the market. And then everybody's going to have to, it's going to be an open architecture, a licensing arrangement.
Very impressive. Okay. John, are you going to send me this deck, or have you already sent me this deck?
I'll send you this video and the deck, Ken, probably first thing in the morning.
Okay. And if people that I'm dealing with want more access, do you have an NDA so that they can, and a data room of some sort for financials and all of these other things? Or is this the only information that's available? And again, they're happy to sign NDAs.
John, was that to you?
No, that's to you, Rob.
Okay. I've got all of the information ready to put into a vault. So that's NDAs. Look, NDAs are not even that important to me. I haven't done any NDAs with any VCs that have been interested in seeing this information. But I can quickly put the data vault together and provide. I think I want to work with John to make sure that my executive summary is appropriate for your group.
Want to fine tune. I definitely have very interesting people that I think would be very interested in what you're doing. I see the potential. I have to figure out the best way to communicate it, and then they're going to want to look at stuff. And I think John does an excellent job of putting things together, as you already did. I mean, this is really, this is great. It's really amazing. I was thinking, if we were going back to like the late 1800s and somebody was talking about, we're going to fly, we're going to do this car engine, we're going to do this. And it's like, I feel like we're sort of at that.
It's exactly right.
With this technology and all these different things that John and Hunter, are sharing with me. And it's exciting because this is really the future. I mean, it can go in so many different directions. And it's just amazing that you're saying, well, these watches, because I'm familiar with all this technology. And then to see that you're able to capitalize the velocity and all of the different measurements, and then you're putting it into an algorithm, a software that can just be put into something existing right now with the firmware update, which, very good question, Hunter, that you raised initially. Just exciting stuff. And I definitely want to get my people, I want them to understand it and have access to it. And they will have questions, but I think there are people that would be very open to giving you money. I know they're going to have questions, and they're a tougher sale for me. But
that's quite all right. I'm ready for those. And just the way to couch this is the way I had mentioned it earlier. I think it really could reach home. Put yourself back in 2015, and if OpenAI approached you and said, I have this new thing that we're going to call ChatGPT, but we've got to create the language model. We have to train it. It's going to take us a few years to get there, but this is what we need to do. It's going to cost a lot of money, but when we do, this thing is going to revolutionize the industry. That's exactly where you're at. But instead of language and chatbots, this is with a new data set, Motion.
Right. And I think insurance companies will want to know about this. I think everybody, it's not just these physical applications of cars that drive by themselves, drones, airplanes, fitness devices, medical devices, things inside a person's body that we're monitoring because they're trying to do something to help this person with their heart. And then this other person that, or the same person that has an insulin pump, like all of this stuff can be utilized in the 3D realm. So
exactly,
really, the applications are pretty endless. It's just a matter of someone who has the money and the vision to put forth this. But I know they're going to want more than 20%, and that's a discussion. They're going to want something, and you don't want to give it up because you see the future. So, but it doesn't matter. There has to be a happy medium where everybody walks away. I just would like to be part of, getting the funding in. And I'd also like to structure something where I get to be a bit of an owner in this, because frankly, this is the future. This is genius. I love stuff like this.
Oh, think too, remote home monitoring as people get older. You want to know how the medication is working. You're going to know right away. You're
exactly.
John, I think, John, did I mention to you? Let's say you were. Let's say you owned a horse ranch, and you had 100 foals or fillies ready, and you want to know which one is the next Secretariat or Man of War. In minutes, with this kind of device, you'll know which one is leader of the pack.
This is why insurance companies will go crazy for this technology. The data that you're collecting, that is so, I hate to say it, this can be used the wrong way, obviously. I mean, governments will want to know this because they'll want to put chips when people are doing things with their wrists, their hands, all of these things that are monitoring, that collect. Bob, who has an insulin pump, this one who has a heart valve, this one who has this technology that we haven't even discussed that's going to be implemented to save their life. When they know this about different people and they understand this, it's going to help them even compile this information into new AI systems that will then compile predictability. I mean, this is, we're talking the time in which this stuff will evaluate, what is the word that I'm using? The time in which it will take to get to this level is sooner than we think, because like technology that we did, say, 100 years ago, and it took us 100 years to get there, we can do that now in the space of 15 years. And that's just going to accelerate because of this kind of technology. So it's very interesting stuff. And I definitely want to talk to you, John, how we can put this together for some of my people, one in particular.
That's great, Ken. I knew that you would be as excited about this as I am. It's just, it's really,
you did. You invited me impromptu, and I'm like, okay, let's see. And then it's like, wow, this is fascinating stuff. Really cool.
Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey with Rob Tondo, the visionary founder behind Xmotion. It's been a privilege to delve into the future of technology with such an innovative leader. If today's conversation sparked your interest and you're considering becoming a part of this groundbreaking venture, we've made it easy for you to take the next step. Visit us at www.agentcapitalsolutions.com. Here, under current offerings, you'll find the comprehensive Xmotion investment deck, rich with details and potential insights. This is your gateway to understanding how Xmotion is shaping the future. And for a more personal touch, feel free to reach out directly. You can email me at john@agentcapitalsolutions.com, or if you prefer a conversation, call me at 949-735-1004. I'm always ready to talk about opportunities that redefine our tomorrow. We're on the cusp of a new era in technology, and Xmotion is leading the way. Don't miss your chance to be a part of this transformative journey. I look forward to exploring this opportunity together. That's Agent Capital Solutions, where vision meets opportunity. Join us in shaping the future. Agent Capital Solutions, your gateway to tomorrow's innovations.